Thank you. You may be seated. We'll get started this morning. Picked up where we left off yesterday. Ms. Kruger, you're recognized to present your next witness.
Good morning, Mr. Coy.
Good morning.
Will you please state your name for the record?
Byron Coy.
By whom are you employed and what is your position?
I operate as a sole member LLC as a principal consultant.
Please,
I operate as a sole member LLC company as an engineering consultant.
Mr. Coy, could you please provide your educational and professional background?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering from Drexel University. I'm a registered professional engineer. I spent about 15 years in the pipeline industry and in 27 years in PHMSA as a region director for a portion of that time, and then as a advisory engineer to the administrator, and as a independent consultant in the last 4 years.
Are you the same Byron Coy who submitted pre-filed direct testimony in this proceeding?
I am.
Do you have any additions, deletions, or other revisions to that testimony that you need to make?
I do not.
If I were to ask you the same questions that were included in your pre-filed direct testimony today under oath, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Mr. Coy, would you briefly provide your summary for the commission?
All right. IMPAS staff contracted me to perform an evaluation of Atmos's integrity program's performance over the past 10 years and to check for a correlation between this performance and related capital spending. My education, industry, work experience, and several key PHMSA positions all qualify me to perform this analysis and draw conclusions. Atmos cites that I have not found a single project to remove from their integrity plans, but my assignment was to review the overall performance rather than identifying unworthy projects. The Atmos data for this analysis comes from information submitted to PHMSA and from data responses filed to IMPAS staff. My analysis is driven entirely from actual Atmos data. Transmission and distribution operators must file annual reports about their assets and key integrity performance data to PHMSA. PHMSA creates integrity performance reports based primarily on leak statistics. Atmos filed system integrity performance reports to the Mississippi PSC as far back as 2017. Leak statistics represent the bulk of these reports. Although Atmos now contests the reports are not representative of integrity performance, there is no mention of this in any of the reports. Supporting information for the three following highlights are in my testimony. First, the early downward trend in hazardous leak repairs can be attributed to the initiation of Atmos's integrity programs when the very highest risk to pipeline assets were addressed. The company's integrity efforts were effective in reducing leaks during the early years of the program. However, since 2019, integrity spending has grown significantly, with hazardous leak performance remaining generally flat, or as some might say, plateaued. Secondly, each company's integrity program is expected to be aligned with its assets, but the basic theme, risks, and applied actions have similarities across the industry. This has allowed me to find peculiarities in the way they prioritize their asset replacement. By example, there is surely some coated steel pipe, perhaps with suspect joints, that need to be replaced. But 12 times more coated steel pipe has been replaced than bare steel pipe. Bare steel pipe is acknowledged by Atmos as a high-risk material. The 54 miles of bare steel pipe in 2013 has been reduced, but 35 miles of this high-risk pipe is still in service. Lastly, the direction and performance of integrity management is influenced by related data and its analysis. Atmos is collecting and using required data. However, more information and deeper analysis should help improve performance, break through the plateau. Examples are leak management practices, services and outage and evacuations, small unintentional gas releases, accuracy of GIS mapping, and contributing causes of incidents, or examples of the kind of things where improvements might be found. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coy. Mr. Chairman, the staff tenders the witness for a cross-examination.
Thank you, Ms. Kruger. Ms. Bass, you're recognized.
You ready?
Ms. Bass, today we have a mic, so if you want to walk around, just turn it on. A microphone at the...
All right. I think I'm fine right here. I've gotten comfortable here. Okay, Mr. Coy, I just have a few questions for you to follow up on your summary there. Have you ever participated in a distribution integrity management plan inspection or audit when you were at PHMSA?
Yes, I did.
You did?
As the region director, I was involved in many of those.
You were? And did you ever inspect Atmos Energy's distribution integrity management plan?
Have not.
You haven't. And so have you ever seen our distribution risk assessment model that we use as part of that plan?
I have not, and was out of the scope of the performance evaluation that I conducted.
Okay, so you weren't asked to look to see if how we identify threats on the system and select actions to address those threats on a risk-ranked basis. You weren't asked to review that process to make sure that it is leading to the right investment decisions.
No, I was only looking at the outcome of the work you described.
Okay, and when you say that outcome, you're looking at only the DOT data on hazardous leaks is what I think you focused on in your assessment?
I looked at all leaks.
You looked at all leaks. And did you have the opportunity do the DOT reports distinguish between above ground leaks and below ground leaks?
Leaks are distinguished by cause.
By cause, but not above ground or below ground.
They're not identified like that.
Right. And did you hear Mr. Knight's testimony when he was here on Tuesday? Were you in the room?
I was here.
Okay. And did you hear him talk about how our decisions are driven by all below ground leaks because they provide us data on the threats that enter into our DRAM model?
I was here when he made his testimony. I don't recall specific language like that.
Okay.
I won't deny it.
Would you disagree that the company is required to take into account the risks that are revealed by all below ground leaks on our system?
All leaks, including below ground.
Correct. And I say below ground because when we're talking about replacement projects, we're usually talking about threats like corrosion, equipment failure, material and joint welds that would be below ground leaks primarily, correct?
Most equipment leaks would be above ground.
Well, and that's another problem, right? So you say most equipment would be above ground leaks, but if you take a look at Atmos Energy's leak classifications, that is not the way that it's defined in our manuals. Have you seen that?
I already said I didn't examine your program specifics.
And so you wouldn't have known that many of the coupling failures and joining method failures are captured in our equipment leak category on the DOT report.
The DOT report has a category for pipe and joining techniques. That's one category.
Yes, and so, but you wouldn't know because you didn't look at our manuals and how we define those categories, that some of those joining method failures and compression couplings, many of them are captured in our equipment failure category.
Well, then they would have been miscategorized.
And maybe so, but you wouldn't have been able to tell that from the data that you looked at.
That's right.
Okay. And
I presume that you entered your data correctly.
okay. And did you ask for a further breakdown or any information about data on couplings in particular in your data request?
I presume that the data I retrieved out of the PHMSA DOT report was accurate information that you submitted.
Okay. And did you read Mr. Kimes' rebuttal and Mr. Knight's rebuttal testimony in this docket?
I was here
No, did you, the pre-file testimony, I'm sorry. Did you read that?
I went through aspects of a lot of the different testimony, attempting to extract the information to support my review work.
Okay, and did it change your opinion about anything in this case?
It supplemented a fuller picture.
Okay, and Connor, could you put up Mr. Kimes' rebuttal testimony? I believe it's on page 15, or let's start with 14. Okay, there's 14, all right. So these are the below ground leaks that Atmos Energy has experienced in 2022, 23, and 24. These are repaired leaks, actually. So you see that data there?
Yes, I do.
And you see that the hazardous leaks on service lines is going up significantly, correct?
I see the introduction of your advanced leak detection system coming into play for the 23 and 24 data.
And is it your testimony that Atmos Energy should not consider that data in addressing risk on its system and repair those leaks that it's seeing, those hazardous leaks on the service lines?
The introduction of the advanced mobile leak detection system provided the opportunity for you to discover leaks that were smaller, not detectable by techniques applied prior to the 23 data.
Okay, smaller leaks, you say. Well, let's talk about hazardous versus non-hazardous. You see the line there that says service lines hazardous. Would you consider those to be small leaks?
The category for hazardous is made up of the volume of the leak in association with where the leak is occurring. So it's a combinational categorization.
Right. And so it's making our system safer to find those hazardous leaks sooner, isn't it?
Yes.
And do you think that a reasonable, prudent operator wouldn't take action, regardless of whether it was because of more sensitive technology, more frequent leak surveys, that a reasonable, prudent operator would take action on that data when we are seeing that number of increase in hazardous leaks on service lines near people's homes?
It would be prudent for you and all operators to take that kind of action.
Okay. And then when you look at the service lines non-hazardous leaks there, you see a significant increase on service lines of non-hazardous below ground leaks too, right?
I see that.
And do you agree that that provides critical data on the performance of these higher relative risk assets, even though those leaks aren't yet hazardous?
It's my opinion that the bulk of the smaller leaks were already in place, leaking years before. They just were not detectable until the new equipment arrived.
And the system's safer now that we can identify them, correct?
System is safer, but because they're not hazardous, they don't deserve the attention that hazardous leaks.
And are you familiar with the system performance issues that this company experienced in Jackson, Mississippi in late January and February of 2024?
Yes.
And are you aware that near the two incidents that were reported to PHMSA, that there was a grade 2 and grade 3 leak on the assets that were in question?
I'm aware, according to the preliminary information from the NTSB, there were leaks in the area that likely caused by joint conditions in below-ground pipe. Whether or not they would be grade 1, 2, or 3 would be something that your people would have made a determination about.
Okay, well, that preliminary report says that they were grade 2 and grade 3, so non-hazardous leaks.
I think that
correct?
it says that Atmos graded those leaks as
Correct.
you described.
Atmos graded those leaks as that.
It's not an
Okay.
NTSB determination.
Okay, but so it's assuming that Atmos Energy is grading those leaks the same way that it's grading these non-hazardous leaks, we can agree that we need to pay attention to non-hazardous leaks on these systems.
Yes, but not to the degree you would for hazardous leaks.
Okay, that's fine. And Connor, could you scroll down just a little bit to page 15? Okay, and I was referring to, and whether we have been inaccurately addressing the cause on our DOT report, we would certainly love to speak with PHMSA and our state regulators about that. But this is a summary of the compression coupling leaks and other fittings that we have found on our system in 2022, 2023, and 2024. You see those?
Yes.
And you see in 2023, it slightly decreased from 2022, right?
I see your data.
Okay, but then in 2024, there is a very large increase in the leaks that we are seeing on the system resulting from these types of joining methods. You see that?
I see you've detected more leaks.
Correct.
None of us know whether or not those leaks were already in place in previous years.
Okay, but if I represent to you that based on our state and federal approved distribution integrity management plan and that model, that this leads to a higher likelihood of failure of those assets, do you have any reason to dispute that?
I believe you misspoke that the regulators do not approve plans.
Oh, sorry.
That they only find fault or not.
Okay, they're inspected by the regulators. They're inspected. Sorry, they find that they make findings, don't they, if they think they're inadequate or non-compliant?
For things that they find unsatisfactory, they make note of, but they don't endorse plans or declare that they are
Okay.
accurate or complete.
And while we're on that topic, were you aware that this commission did such an inspection of Atmos Energy's distribution integrity management plan in 2023?
I'm aware.
And you're aware that there were no such findings of any inadequacies of that plan?
I'm aware there were no findings and there was no approval of the plan either.
Right. I'm sorry, I misspoke on that. Okay, but what I'm trying to establish is you have no reason to dispute that our model of that inspected plan, inspected by the Mississippi Public Service Commission, led us to change our likelihood of failure and ranking of relative risk based on this data that you see on the screen.
I can see how that might influence your strategic assessment of actions to be taken.
Okay, and you're aware that, you were here for Mr. Knight's testimony, Mr. Kimes' testimony, and you're aware that operators have a lot of different data that they take into account to make decisions on a daily basis regarding addressing risk on the system, correct?
In the material supplied to Atmos preparing for this rate case, there were several mentions that you only collect data that's required by regulation.
Okay, give me an example of that.
I don't have all my notes about specific quotes, but there were several of those.
Well, I recall, so you brought up notes about evacuations. Can you tell me what regulation requires us to keep data regarding specific evacuations?
I've made requests for various kinds of information and evacuations as you suggested. I can't quote specifically, but after I made several of those different inquiries, one of the responses was, we don't we don't collect information on a lot of things. We collect things that are required by regulation.
We said that
Yes, you did.
those were not required by regulation. But
The
I would
response
like
was-
for you to point in our data responses to where we say that we don't collect any data that's not required by regulation.
Well, I'm sure we could find that for you.
Okay.
I can't do that sitting here, witness stand.
Well, please find that for me, because what I recall, let's talk about the evacuations again. Evacuations are done pursuant to procedures, correct?
Well, evacuations can be triggered by a lot of factors. One of them might be if your staff identified a serious situation that you would want residents to evacuate.
We have emergency response procedures in our O&M manual.
I'm sure you do.
Yes, and we have leak investigation procedures as well. You're aware of those?
I did not investigate your overall company procedures, but I'm sure that you do.
But operators are required to have those, aren't they?
I'm sure you have procedures like that.
Right. And those procedures that we follow to the letter dictate when we undertake evacuations, correct?
I'm sure they do.
Right. And has this commission or any other commission, to your knowledge, said that we weren't evacuating pursuant to those procedures?
Nor did I.
Okay. Okay, I'll leave that alone. So another one that you mentioned, gosh, let me think of it. Oh, outages. Service outages. Is there any regulation that requires utilities or operators to track service outages for pipeline safety purposes?
The regulations do not specifically identify evacuations and service outages as key components, but operators who want to strive for better performance examine data beyond what's required by regulation.
And if Atmos Energy has testified in this case that those measures are not helpful to our distribution integrity management plan implementation, you have no reason to substitute yourself for the judgment of the operator.
I guess that could be your opinion.
Okay. And are you aware that the Mississippi Public Service Commission has rules about when we need to report outages to them? Did you know that?
Yeah, my inquiry was not about reporting the outage. It was analyzing what caused the outage, contributing factors, the metadata around the event.
Okay, and that data would be included in our compliance data regarding any leaks or entries in the compliance data that we're required to keep, but it's just not housed in the form that you were requesting it, correct?
Well, I didn't receive the data. I don't know if you have it or how it's packaged.
All right, well, thank you very much, Mr. Coy. That's all the questions I'm going to have.
I believe I found what
Oh, great. Let's look at it.
He'll have to tell me if this is what y'all referring to. This is that what she's asking about, what you were looking for? That's the copy.
In data request response 5-1 DD and EE was mentioning.
Okay, can you read those responses?
I have reference to the location of the responses, but the actual quotation is not in this data right here.
Okay, well, that's fine.
We have the data request response 5.1. Yeah, they're out.
It's got, okay. If you can't find it, this obviously can be addressed in post-hearing briefs.
Yeah.
But it's up to you.
I mean,
If she has, I believe this is the data response to 5.1. Just take your time and look through it.
5-1 DD.
You just look through it and scroll through. Take your time.
DD and E represent commentary about the outages and incident data, but it does not get into the details about the specific information. I see that we came across here very quickly is associated with your information about what the information in the response was quoted, but it's not in this data.
Well, we'll just clarify our those data responses in the post-hearing brief so that's clear in the record. But thank you very much.
You may approach, yes, sir. Thank you, Ms. Bass. Thank you. Ms. Krug? Yes, sir. Yes, you may. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Kruger, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Coy, you were asked by Ms. Bass about what data you studied regarding leak statistics. Can you explain what you chose, why you chose to use leak statistics as a way to study Atmos's integrity performance?
I spent a lot of time in 27 years at PHMSA, and I did a lot of work reviewing a lot of different operators, and PHMSA uses data to do an analysis to determine trends and the like. PHMSA put together data across all operators and made a determination of what are the important data elements that would be representative of an operator's integrity performance. And on their website, they establish metrics that are available to the public. And the several factors that PHMSA puts together to create these performance reports is heavily weighted on leak repair statistics. Integrity performance criteria is described on PHMSA's public stakeholder web pages. In addition, I mentioned in the opening remarks there that Atmos filed their annual reports, which are titled System Integrity Performance Metrics Reports. And they've been filed since 2017. I know Atmos earlier discounts those reports as not really representative of performance, but there's no mention in any of those reports back to 2017, no disclaimers or comments that says that we're filing this information, but it doesn't say it's not representative of performance. So in the limited time I had to prepare information, for this setting, I chose leak statistics primarily as the vehicle to get a snapshot of the performance over the recent 10 years.
Mr. Coy, you discussed with Ms. Bass distribution hazardous leak repairs as well, and you mentioned before that your testimony shows performance improvement in distribution hazardous leak repairs during a prior time frame. Can you tell the Commission the source of that data, and can you describe how that improvement was achieved?
PHMSA and all their gas pipeline operators file annual reports to PHMSA. It's a rather voluminous set of data. And leak statistics are a part of that information. I could see from back to 2012 how leak performance has compared year over year. Integrity programs were put in place for distribution by 2010. I could see in the early years of the program, say 2012 to 19, the early implementation, you could see the leak performance improving year over year because the very highest risks were identified early in the onset of their program. So identifying those very highest risks, you would expect to see a reduction in the need to do hazardous leak repairs. And that's reflected in the data in a downward trend.
Are you finished? Thank you. Mr. Coy, continuing your discussion of leak repair performance, can you describe for the commission how that leak repair performance has been in recent years?
After about 2019, in the 19 to 22 time period, there's been some volatility in the non-hazardous leak repairs, fluctuating. But the hazardous leak repairs have sort of generally plateaued, gone flat. So it's my opinion that, you know, the very serious threats, you know, were dutifully addressed by Atmos, as would have been expected. But the program, you know, in the 19 to 22 area, you know, sort of plateaued. They were not advancing their performance based on hazardous leak repairs. So, you know, program plateauing means that their, you know, additional investments were not yielding the returns to further drive down the hazardous leak repair requirements.
Mr. Coy, you spoke at length with Ms. Bass about leak repair statistics. Can you talk about those statistics during 2023, 2024, that time period?
Yeah, the introduction of advanced mobile leak detection, the first unit was put in place mid-year 22. And as a result of that, the equipment is far more sensitive, you know, as was noted in earlier testimony. So that far more leaks were now being detected. But it's my opinion that the bulk of those leaks probably would have been in play years before, but they just weren't detected. They weren't identified. So having the equipment is valuable in regard to identifying potential issues. So it's good that the equipment is now in place. You know, the local community gets the benefit of less leaks to contend with, and those the few of those that are hazardous would be attended to and repaired. But having that equipment, it clouds the ability to look at the leak statistics because that additional equipment, it puts another wrinkle in trying to identify the performance because the factors have changed.
Mr. Coy, you talked with Ms. Bass about certain data that Atmos does and does not collect. Can you discuss what Atmos collects, what data they collect as far as federal safety regulations?
There's a lot of data that operators would be using in their daily routines and to support their integrity programs that are not on the list of required data that would be submitted to PHMSA. There is an expectation in the regulations, 192, 1007F, that calls for operators to review their programs and use the data to check its effectiveness and generally then, in essence, identify ways to improve the program. So there are opportunities for operators to use information beyond the explicit requirements of the regulations to help drive further performance improvements for your integrity program. I perceive from my limited view of the program that I looked at, that Atmos's integrity program is mainly focused in the ditch, what kind of pipe, the joint fittings, cathodic protection, damage prevention. But to get through the plateau, it would drive operators to look at additional information or more thorough analysis of information they collect, like leak management practices, the cause of evacuations and service outages. I made some notes here. Large unintentional gas releases are reportable, but smaller unintentional gas releases are not reportable. But there are far more of those than larger reportable events. So there's a lot of data that can be collected for those to perhaps identify issues, make corrections to minimize those kinds of events in the future.
Continuing on that topic of integrity performance improvements that you've been discussing, Mr. Coy, in your opinion, what are some options for additional data to help find areas for integrity performance improvements?
Well, I mentioned, Mr. Contributing causes of incidents. Not that contributing causes may not be identified, but once they're identified, how were they contributing? What could be done to eliminate when incidents or even smaller gas releases occur? It's usually not because one thing was done wrong. It's a combination of things. James Reason uses a Swiss cheese model that you've got 4 or 5 pieces of Swiss cheese and you can't see through. But if the 4 or 5 pieces get lined up just the right way, you have the path through and an event occurs. So it's either the deeper analysis of information you have or collecting more information. Make an example of leak management practices. Atmos and other operators grade leaks as hazardous or less hazardous grades 2 and 3. Atmos has a practice of not allowing a leak to be downgraded. That's a good practice. They identify a hazardous leak and then they go to make repairs and say, well, gee, maybe it's not hazardous, so let's just grade it a 3 so we don't have to spend the money to make a repair. Atmos does not allow that. That's a good practice. But a leak can be upgraded. So if you analyze information about management practices and find that more often than not, when a leak is upgraded, if you know that the original technician who made the original assessment seems to be always that those leaks are the ones that need to be upgraded, maybe that person is not doing a good job at grading leaks. So that's sort of second level evaluations. And, not necessarily that that person's not capable, but maybe they need additional training or the like, or maybe they've got bad equipment that's been assigned to them. A lot of different factors can come into play.
You're talking about analyzing leak management practices. Is there any value to be gained from that analysis?
If a technician does not properly classify a leak, you may have a hazardous leak go unattended because in the processing of a grade 3 leak, it would not get the attention of one that was a more serious event. So there's an immediate value for safety and in additional value in a more longer term by the data analysis that comes with it.
You and Ms. Bass discussed the incident reporting threshold, the threshold at which Atmos reports to the commission or some other entity. Is there any value in recording and analyzing those events when gas is released below the incident reporting threshold?
You know, there are, for every operator, I've not examined every operator, but in my opinion, there would be far more events where there are unintentional gas releases occurring that are below the reporting threshold. All of those kinds of events were caused for some reason or another. And although they were not catastrophic, not reportable, there's a wealth of information that can be gleaned by, how did this happen? Is it just by luck that it wasn't reportable? But the metadata around releases less than reportable is extremely valuable. Atmos may be doing analytical work in that regard, but I didn't see it in any of the information that I collected to make my analysis.
No further questions. Thank you, Mr. Kruger.
Thank you, Ms. Kruger. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Kruger, Commissioner Carr has a question.
The graph that we had when Atmos attorney was up, can we put that back up on the wall, please? On the wall, please.
Connor, you're up.
The graph we just saw
That-
about the calls in 2022, 2024.
Is that it, Commissioner?
Yes,
There's that one, and
No,
then there's
the one
one
before
above
that.
it.
The one before that?
yes.
That one, yes.
So the service line's non-hazardous, 1641. Where is the majority of those phone calls coming from, or those line repairs? Was that at the event that happened in Jackson? Were you showing you go from 533 to 693 to 1641? Where was the increase at?
Geographically,
Yes.
So most of those leaks were found in the accelerated leak surveys that were conducted in Jackson after the events of January 2024 and the continued accelerated leak surveys that were undertaken on similar assets throughout our entire footprint.
So what level was that phone call at that event?
What level was the?
Yeah, because there was calls into that area, and y'all kept moving that event up, and then we had the accident. Because what I'm getting at is, when you're having an event like that, there's a shock on the system. There's a compression coming back away from that explosion. So that would have caused more leaks. I'm just trying to get to
Yeah, I'm not an engineer,
Okay.
but I know that, most of those leaks, while they were on similar assets, they're not in the exact vicinity of the events that occurred in the two addresses that you know about. but they're all, as the next page shows, many of them were on similar type assets with similar type risks.
Ms. Bass, would you um, address that in the post-hearing briefs?
Certainly.
Thank you. Commissioner Stamps, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And along the same lines as Commissioner Carr, how much of this, maybe you're the person to ask this to, or maybe someone else can answer this question. How much of the proposed rate increase is due to deal with third-party damage? And what other types of methods could we remedy third-party damages? Does there need to be some type of new laws put in place for contractors who may be hitting, or just what, in your professional opinion, what else could be done? I know it's two questions in one, but you have the impact on the rates, but also what other things could be done to bring down third-party damage?
I can speak to some of the mechanics, but I'm not qualified to talk about the financial implications. Mississippi and all other states have, the one-call systems. I do know that Atmos, I inquired, and Atmos does report damage received from contractors on their system. Some operators in other locations, they don't report contractors hitting them. But Atmos does report contractors, so that's a good thing. I don't know of any impending changes or advances in the area of third-party damage that are in play right now. If you have other comments.
If you'd like to hear our improvements in that area and what we have planned for the future, Mr. Keim is in the room, and he could tell you what's going on in the Mississippi Division for third-party damages, if you'd like to hear that.
We can address it later. I want to hold the proceeding up. Just a question I had.
Again, if you can kind of address some of that in the post-hearing brief.
Will do.
Thank
we
you.
might need more than 40 pages after all we're going to address in there.
Staff won't agree to that.
Will or will not? Okay. Ms. Kruger, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no further questions for this witness.
I have
Thanks,
one
Mr.
point of
Coy.
order. I believe that Mr. Coy was reviewing something at the stand that we have not gotten a copy of, and I'd just like to take a look at that and see whether it needs to be entered into the record.
Any objection? No. It was probably in.
It's already in the record.
It's already in the record, isn't it? This. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Right.
Yes, Atmos would request that these be entered into the record as an exhibit so that we can have access to this as we write our or in the alternative that we can provide a copy that we can.
Mr. Coy, who wrote the notes that you're referring to?
I wrote these notes.
Thank you.
Can they have that copy, or do you need that copy?
I prepared these notes and brought them to the stand.
Okay, you brought them with you though to this?
Yes.
Okay. So they weren't handed by me to you?
No.
Okay, I'm just clarifying that.
Yeah, no objection.
So can we make a copy of these?
Yeah, we'll get you, if it's okay, we'll get them a copy. Okay.
Just make it part of the record.
Yeah.
We'll make a copy for you. Raise that brick. That's it.
You may. Thank you, Ms. Coy. Ms. Kruger, call your next witness.
Mr. Chairman, the staff calls Jonathan Bird to the stand. Will you please state your name for the record?
Jonathan Berg.
By whom are you employed and what is your position?
I am the Vice President of Regulatory Policy for United Professionals Company.
Will you please provide your educational and professional background?
Sure. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering from LSU, a Juris Doctor from Loyola University in New Orleans. My career began as an engineer at a utility, at a natural gas power plant. After law school, I practiced privately for a few years before returning to the utility in the regulatory space in 2011. I worked for a utility for over a decade since 2011, and in my consulting role now, my entire career has been based on utility regulation and rate making. Since 2022, that has been as a consultant at United Professionals Company.
Are you the same Jonathan Berg who submitted pre-filed direct testimony in this proceeding?
I am.
Do you have any additions, deletions, or other revisions to that testimony that you need to make?
I do not.
If I were to ask you the same questions that were included in your pre-filed direct testimony today under oath, would your answers be the same?
They would.
Mr. Berg, would you briefly provide your summary for the commission?
I will, and I apologize for reading, but the majority of my testimony discusses Atmos's forecasted capital spending and its recovery of those amounts. Specifically, the $166 million system integrity spending that Atmos has proposed for recovery here, with a plan to spend even higher budgets infinitely in the future. I think it has been fairly well established here that the issue of capital spending under the SIR is a matter of pace. And so I do my best to examine whether the pace of Atmos's capital spending growth under the SIR is needed to provide reliable and safe service to customers at the lowest reasonable cost. I provide evidence to suggest that a slower pace would be just and reasonable when balanced against the customer's interest of affordable rates. That evidence includes a comparison of Atmos's spending and recovery to other peer utilities, including its sister utilities, Atmos's documentation or lack thereof supporting the spending, the relative types of pipes and leaks in Atmos's Mississippi system as compared to others, as also testified by Mr. Coy, and the lack of metrics supporting the effectiveness of the program to date and the proposed expansion of the program moving forward. Atmos has said that the total amount of the SIP budget it has proposed is needed to provide safe and reliable service to customers. If that statement alone is sufficient to justify the hundreds of millions of dollars sought by Atmos, then this commission really has no role other than to adhere to what Atmos says. That is the capital circle Atmos has created through the SIP, which I discuss fully in Section 3F of my testimony. So with this thorough discussion provided in my testimony, I propose two proposals. One, that a cap to limit the recoverable spending through formula rate making, and two, an historic test year to insert financial discipline into the Atmos rate making equation. And I want to address one thing that's come up, and I want to be clear on the proposed cap and its relation to Atmos's ability to repair leaks. It has been said that my proposed cap is insufficient to allow Atmos to repair leaks because I have proposed $61 million, which is fully supported in my testimony, and they have said repairing leaks costs $70 million. Atmos did not make an ask for a leak repair budget in this case. They did not make an ask for a leak repair rider. That issue was first raised in rebuttal, and staff has always made clear in discussions with Atmos that any cap or limit on the recovery of spending would come with the full opportunity to make a specific request to seek commission approval to exceed the cap on justified grounds. That request was not made here. Putting those two things aside, Atmos's statement of its $70 million leak budget ignores a few things. That just in 2023, Atmos presented a leak repair budget to staff that was $25 million a year through 2028. That Atmos has admittedly included in that $70 million number things other than leaks, and that Atmos did not identify what portion of that $70 million is for hazardous leaks. Again, all presented on rebuttal. I also talk in my testimony about ROE and incentive compensation. For ROE, I simply say, as Mr. Sissing said, examine the evidence before you, from Mr. Diascendis, and Mr. Mayu. For incentive comp, I point out that incentive comp tied to financial performance is generally not recoverable, and that the facts presented here, including the incentive compensation provided to Atmos executives for 2024, support exclusion of incentive compensation. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the staff tenders Mr. Berg for cross-examination.
Thank you, Ms. Kruger. Mr. Perrin, you're recognized.
Good morning, Mr. Berg.
Good morning.
One thing to follow up from yesterday, I talked to Ms. Kruger asked Mr. Sissing a question about that resiliency docket at the Louisiana Public Service Commission. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And she asked him about a recommendation he made for a lower ROE
Yes.
in the resiliency rider, correct?
Yes.
Can you confirm for me that the LPSC rejected that recommendation?
I can, because it's actually an idea that I had come up with, and it was tied to performance, that performance, they would get a lower ROE on cost, and the commission did reject that, yes.
Okay, thank you. I want to talk about some of the things that Mr. Coy was just talking about, and link them to some of the financial discussions, the money discussions and budget discussions that I had with Mr. Sissing yesterday. And so I'd ask Mr. McLeod to put up these graphs that we had looked at before with Mr. Coy.
It's on the wall behind you, too, Mr. Berg. It's bigger on behind.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Whichever is easier.
Mr. McLeod, can you go up to the one above that? Get them both on the screen. That'd be great. Let's do the lower one first. You were better than I on the plan. Okay. You were here for Mr. Kime's testimony during this proceeding, right?
I was.
Okay. And Mr. Kime had a wagon that he had some steel piping in. You recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And so I want to relate that lower graph, that compression coupling. Okay. Do you remember the discussion of the compression coupling?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. It was and just so that everyone knows, that was the device that was on the larger diameter pipe. Oh, wait. No, I got that backwards.
I'm generally familiar with
All right.
coupling.
I want to get this clear for the commissioners, because I know the commission, was able to see this pipe. On the main, the larger diameter pipe, that device was a fitting, which is on that second row in J and R2. Do you understand that?
Yeah, it's like a fitting, like at Lowe's, it's just bigger, for bigger
Okay.
pipe. Right.
And then this, in the top row, the compression coupling, that was the connection that was on the service, the smaller diameter pipe.
I'll take your word for that.
Okay. Now, I understand that you don't have a large background in gas utility operations and capital work.
What's that understanding based on? Can I just?
I mean, just on reading have you done any work, gas operations work in your past work?
Operations? No.
Okay. Did you do any pipeline replacement work in your past life?
Physically?
Yes.
No.
Okay. You were a financial planner for the utility, though, right?
For a year and a half, yes.
Okay. Sitting as a financial planner, if an operations person presented you data showing, can you raise it a little bit, Connor, so that we can, no, the other direction. There we go. And I'm pointing to JSK R2, and I'm focusing on 23 and 24, 2023 and 2024. As a financial planner, if an operations personnel came to you and said that there needs to be an operations reaction to this information, would you think that'd be a reasonable request by the operations person?
Would it be a reasonable request from the operations person?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I want to now go to the top graph. Now this graph's about below ground leaks and the statistics on repairs. And again, I want to focus on 2023 and 2024. All right, you got that?
Yep.
I've got a similar question.
Yep.
As a financial planner for a utility, if an operations person presented you this data and said that there needed to be an operation response, would that be a reasonable request?
As a financial planner, if an operations person took this to me, it would be a reasonable request that I would then have to determine if we can afford.
Okay. The operations person would present you the financial data that would equate to the response, right?
Yeah, he would give me like that notebook we had when Mr. Kime was here. He would give me all of those. And that would have all the data showing how much it's cost, and I have to see what we can afford.
Okay. So your role as a financial planner is to look at affordability, right?
No, I did not say that. I would have to look at what we can afford, and that would have to look at the capital plan of the utility, which involves many people,
Right.
and whether that capital plan can support it. And that capital plan, I would assume, accounts for affordability.
Okay. Does that capital plan have a part that accounts for safety?
Be more, like, in general, be more specific. What capital plan?
Well, you said you're looking at a capital plan, and you said it has affordability taken into account. You assumed that was in there.
Are you asking me in my role when I was doing that?
Mhm.
So the utility that was submitting it to me at the time?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. Would some of that safety data be these graphs that I discussed with you just a few minutes ago?
The operational person assessing their system would definitely want to provide support for the requested funding.
Okay. So if what we're describing, that's a sort of a bottom, is it fair to call that a bottoms-up budgeting process?
It's both ways, kind of, right? Because
Okay.
the projects come up, and then it's the kind of the global financial plan dictated by affordability, reliability, and everything that says, okay, if this is specific enough that we need to exceed that, then we need to talk about it. But if not, can it fit within the financial plan?
Okay. So if I'm sort of I want to elaborate a little bit on this process. So the operations person would come to you with data like this, and that's the leak data, the changes year to year. And then the operations person would also present cost information to address these changes. And that would go up a level to, say, someone like you in your previous position. Is that a fair way to think about it?
Can I clarify what my position
Sure.
was? So I was a finance person
Mm-hmm.
for a utility that had a parent.
Yeah.
That parent had a capital plan that obviously is dictated by several things.
Mhm.
So as a finance person I was part of that plan. So I had to make sure our plan fit within the larger plan. And when operations decisions came to me, I had to first say, well, that can't be funded within the plan, the overall financial plan. But if it's important enough, let's make the request.
Okay. And you would make that request up the chain?
Correct. Documented in the
Okay.
full package.
Now, you had some part in your summary, and we talked about leak repairs and funding and your cap. Is it the intent of the staff or UPC to limit the capital spending to repair hazardous leaks?
And I'll admit that my testimony was probably a little loose on the language. I do not know the commission's legal ability to do what you suggested. I would say that my testimony supports capping, limiting, slowing down the spending for many reasons. And I would say I would recommend to the commission that it is fully within their authority to limit the amount of special recovery through formula rate making that can be allowed.
If there's a limitation of recovery, okay, doesn't that at some point affect the ability to do work on utility systems?
To do infinite work? Yes. I mean, to do what work? I think you'd have to say, what type of work is it limiting? And again, the caveat came with any special request, fully justified, with metrics you can determine, a set budget, bring it before the commission.
I'm going to go to some of our budget documents and some of our presentations. And Connor, can you help us again? Can you present on page 6 of Mr. Karn's testimony a table CAK-R2? Have you had a chance to look at this table?
Since rebuttal, I have.
Okay. Do you agree that $166 million number, that's a number you had before rebuttal, though, right?
Yeah, the 166 is the total SIR budget request.
Right, and that was provided to you in direct testimony of Mr. Kine, correct?
And described by Mr. Kyman Knights in their direct testimony. Yes.
Okay, so you weren't squeezed for time.
No, I mean, I had that number as fully described in the direct testimony.
Okay. And so, going back to my question, are you saying that there should be some limits on the spending in that box, that leak repairs box? That's 70 million.
Let me say a few things I've learned about that 70 million.
Okay.
That 70 million, I discuss 8 bucket projects in my testimony. Sure. If you add up the first 4 of those, it gets to that number. I was here when Mr. Kime, I think it was Mr. Kime, testified about the first bucket, and he said it includes things other than leak repairs.
Okay.
So that's my first piece. Second, we add this in one staff 131, which is produced in every SIR review. We got a response in 23. It was about March of 23, April of 23 when we got that response. Leak repairs alone was listed as $25 million a year through 2028. That was in March or April of 23.
Okay.
So that's 2 things. And none of that says what's hazardous or what's not. Again, if that request had been made, we need to do leaks for hazardous leaks. That's what we were asking for.
All right, now I'm just asking, I want to focus on this difference between hazardous leaks and non-hazardous leaks. Okay, is it the staff's intent or staff's opinion that non-hazardous leak capital spending can be paced over multiple years?
It's my understanding, and based on Mr. Coy's testimony, is that yes, that is the case. Non-hazardous leaks as identified by the company.
Okay, and do you have an understanding that hazardous leaks must be repaired immediately?
I do not have the language, but I think that's the general intent of the regulation.
Okay, and while I said years for the non-hazardous leaks, do you have an understanding of how long that period is?
I understand they need to be monitored and checked accordingly to make sure they don't become hazardous.
Okay, so a non-hazardous leak that is there, it generates costs, right?
O&M perhaps, yeah.
Well, if there's a segment that needs a repair, well, we have to do the leak repair, right? So that
If it
can
becomes
happen.
hazardous,
No, a non-hazardous. If it changes its grade
and becomes hazardous,
and it becomes hazardous.
then it would be in the category of hazardous.
Okay. All right. It sounds like there's, and Mr. Sisson brought this up, that there is some communication and possibly some documentation issues that are affecting the staff's review and UPC's review of Atmos Energy's data. Is that a fair statement?
Rephrase it, I'm sorry.
Sure. it seems that there's some documentation breakdown and communication breakdown between the staff and UPC, between staff, UPC, and Atmos Energy regarding what the spending is about.
Can I tell you my perception
Sure.
based? My testimony, I went through all the documents that were given to me to support the ask. I even attached them, put pictures in my testimony. And then I was told I ignored them. And we're pointing to the same documents. And Mr. Keim had them in front of him. He had the same documents. He had the same difficulty I do. It's a lot of projects in there, and they have numbers, they have costs. I can't find what is driving and what is absolutely needed out of that $166 million. That's been the difficulty in documentation.
Okay. So let's talk about these. Let's talk about these documents. Let's pull up Exhibit CAK2. And the section that is on the screen is from the system integrity category. And that's what your recommendation about. Your $61 million cap relates to the system integrity category, correct?
Right, and these project justifications are quoted in my testimony.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I sort of want to focus on is while you quote the project justification, there's another column that's called project description.
Right.
Okay? And so if you go to, let's look at line 39.
Why did we skip 38?
Well, we'll get to them all.
Okay.
We'll get to them all.
Okay.
Line 39.
Okay.
In the description, it says leak repair, correct?
Right, it doesn't in 38.
Okay. It does not. I'll get to that.
And that's the one Mr. Keim was going over, the one I read.
Okay. All right. We'll get to that. I'm going to get to it quickly, though.
Okay.
All right. 41 in the project description, it has leak repair,
Yes,
correct?
it does.
Right. So there's one for the southern region and one for the northern region.
Yeah, they were
Okay,
quoted
good.
in my testimony.
All right. Now, but you didn't quote these pieces. This is the project description.
Oh.
You quoted column D, not column B.
The more detailed justification, yes.
Well, wait. That's the project justification, and I agree it's more detailed, and we'll talk about the detail too. But the project description,
Yep.
that's column B.
I'm sorry, I did review it. I just didn't put it in my testimony.
You didn't put it, that's all I was trying.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. All right, so now let's go to 38. And, well, let's look at 40 first, because it might help. Can you look at the project description for 40? Okay?
Sure.
Now you can see in there it says including leak repairs.
Including leak repairs.
Right. So sitting here today, you're not sure what if that's just leak repairs or something else.
The including word implies there's something else in it, but I don't know.
Right. That's right. And so that might be a communication breakdown between Atmos Energy and UPC and staff, right? There could be something that could be miscommunicated in that line.
Yeah, I read that and I understood.
Okay.
And let me just make clear, these are the first 4 projects I discussed that add to the 70. I am in no way suggesting that a portion of that 70 is not related to leak repair. I'm saying we haven't been provided the detail to determine what is and what's not, and clearly some is not.
Okay. Would you like that information? Would that
Sure.
help your review?
Sure.
Okay.
And we got it, in, like I said, in 23, there was some specified line on leak repair. But I think that information is important as part of, you tell, if it is a leak repair rider, we want to get these leaks fixed, it is, this is what we're doing, this is the plan, and this is how you can measure it.
Okay. Did you ever ask Atmos Energy to produce someone to walk you through these line items, these CB numbers, and help you get information about them?
No, I did not. I took they told me, go look at the 632 documents, and That was the discovery response. That's what they told me in rebuttal. I didn't understand them. And I don't know what I didn't understand. And nobody, Mr. Khan didn't tell me.
Well, I'll take your word.
No, I'm saying I did not try and discuss with Mr. Khan during the course of this proceeding, but I didn't get anything more about those documents than I understood before we got here.
And that's fine. This is a hearing proceeding. It's hard to communicate information. I don't expect it to, but do you believe that there's a process with Mr. Khan where you could find more information?
I would love a process whereby this CB 39 with $22 million has a list of prioritization, says, look, we could do 11 and it provides this result. If we do the other 11, it provides this result. It's been 22 or nothing.
Do you understand that this is a functional project?
I understand very well. I describe these 4 functional projects and 4 that are just like it as bucket projects.
Okay. Do you understand that the functional projects are reactive work done by Atmos Energy in response to events in the field?
I don't understand that direct tie.
Okay. And I want to point out this one thing. Can you read 40 and that project description carefully?
The description or I'm sorry, the description?
The project description. I'm focused on project description. I know it's in all caps, and you keep going to column D.
I've been focused on column D, so I apologize.
I know, I understand, and
so you want me to read it?
I want you to read it and take it in, and I'm going to ask you a question about row 38.
Got it?
Okay, let's scroll to row 38. Do you agree that row 38 is very similar to row 40, but it's missing the phrase including leak repair?
Yes.
Okay. So that could be a communication breakdown between Atmos Energy and UPC and your review, right?
I think I read it right, but yes, it could have been described wrong.
It could have been described better.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the existing system integrity rider, it tells Atmos Energy what information to provide for functional projects, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I've read through the Larkin reports and the back and forth, and that information has been discussed, and Atmos has, replied accordingly.
Okay. And the information that's required to be provided for functional projects, it's specified on page 4 of the SIR rider, section 6D. Is that right?
I mean, if you don't need to go through it, I've read the riders.
I want you to have it with you. This is not a quiz show. I want
No.
to make sure we get the right information for the commission.
Sure.
I had copies of it at one point. I don't know where they are now.
Yes, you may.
Chairman, I apologize. We don't have the document. We're having a little trouble locating it. Could we possibly take a mid-morning break and give us a chance to get that document so we can work through this with Mr. Berg?
Okay. I think everybody agrees with the break. Let's take a 10 minutes or 5? 10? 10-minute break. Ms. Kruger, you ready? Okay. May continue.
So we're going back on the record, just so the record's clear. We took a break to look for the system integrity rider. And the question that I had right before we took that break and we're looking for the document, it was, Mr. Berg, you're ready?
I am.
Okay, so this was the question we asked before the break. The system integrity rider tells Atmos Energy what information to provide for functional projects, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So I want to direct your attention to page 4, section 6D. Okay, and you can see D is labeled functional projects, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to briefly read through the list, but there's a list of information, and it says program description, including geographical location if specific areas are being targeted, and a detailed narrative of the purpose of the program and specific regulatory requirement. Number 2 is explain how the project advances safety, system integrity, or other similar purposes. 3 is to have the cost estimate based upon an analysis of historical plant and service data from which the amount requested to be included in rate base was derived. An explanation as to any material deviations from historical program trends. Okay, that's what the SIR requires Atmos Energy to provide, right?
Yes.
Okay, I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, now, Connor, this is going to be a switch for you. Can you go back to Exhibit CK2? And can you, Mr. Berg, I'd like you to focus on the column headings. And can you, not all the column headings are visible right now, but we're going to scroll across slowly. But you're sort of familiar with them.
Yes, sir.
All right. Do these column headings match up with the information requirements in Section D?
Yeah, I have no objection that this exhibit attached to the SIP complies with the current SIR tariff.
Okay. And do you understand that there's a definition in this page that says that functional projects are defined as those projects which are small in nature?
Individually, but you can see they add up.
They add up. They do add up.
Right.
Okay. And that definition also says that they're undertaken repetitively. So they're small and repetitive. And like you observed, they can add up to a big dollar amount, right?
Right. I refer to them, I generally refer to those type of projects, in my experience, as blanket, bucket projects.
Yes, blanket projects.
Yeah,
Yes, you're familiar with blanket projects from your
I-
previous job, right?
I am.
All right, and are you familiar, and do you recall that blanket projects were used by the distribution organization?
Yes.
And that was the electric distribution organization.
It was actually both gas and electric, but yes.
Okay. So that Atmos uses a functional project, the equivalent of a blanket project, that's not unusual, correct?
Not at all.
Okay. Now, so the rider has Atmos Energy provide some information with the filing. Now, then you go to section 6E, and then that gives the staff the right to request additional documents, right?
Yes.
Okay, it also gives them the right to audit capital projects and transactions using a statistically valid sample, right?
Yes.
Okay. And while it gives them that right, it gives them other rights too. They can ask for any additional documentation. Is that right?
Always. They have the full right to discovery under the SIR.
Okay. Has UPC ever requested additional documentation regarding the system integrity projects?
Yeah, I think in the SIR for 2024, we issued 3 sets of discovery.
Okay.
MPUS, with our assistance, issued 3 sets of discovery.
Okay. And has UPC ever conducted an audit of the capital project transactions?
What does that mean?
Well, I would like you to focus on the first paragraph of section E. And can you read that?
The first paragraph under additional documentation?
Yes, sir.
Sure. In addition to the documentation and information.
You don't have to read it out loud. You just read it to
Oh.
yourself.
Sorry. And what's the question on the first paragraph?
Has UPC ever conducted an audit such as the one described in the first paragraph of section E?
Maybe I'm reading this wrong, you can help me, but it says the company shall provide, including without limitation, an audit.
Okay. Have you requested an audit?
Yeah, I think in fact, there was a discovery request put up where we requested, has there been any audits? And the company said no.
Okay, no, that's correct. That's correct. Maybe that's a breakdown of how Atmos Energy applies this section.
I don't know what a breakdown would be.
Oh, well,
that's just.
the information provided might not, the information, well, let me strike that. Let me start over again. In this additional documentation, it's a request from the staff to Atmos Energy, correct?
Rephrase, I'm sorry, Stephen.
Okay. In this section E, this is discussing what the staff has the ability to ask from Atmos Energy, or at least describe some of the things.
I think it actually describes what the company shall provide.
Right, but it's additional documentation. Oh, you're saying that the way you read this, tell me how you read it.
I'll read it.
Sure.
The company shall provide to the staff during the discovery phase responses to any requests for documentation or accounting entries that support the historical data or known and measurable adjustments on which the proposed rate adjustments are based, including without limitation an audit of transactions performed by means of the establishment of a population thereof and drawing a statistically valid sample from that population for purposes of carrying out the audit. And while we did ask for that audit, I think that was in the 2024 set.
Mm-hmm.
We've always asked for anything.
Okay. So this paragraph, and I may have bollocked this up, it's describing the company providing responses to any request of documentation or accounting entries from the staff. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Thank you. In another paragraph, it talks about predefined sets of data requests. Predefined responses to predefined data requests being provided simultaneously with the filing. Has Atmos Energy done that?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that one of those predefined ones was Staff 131 that I referred to earlier, and in 2023, one of those was to get to what is your leak repair budget, separated out separately, and in 2023, in response to those that this is referring to, that information was provided. So Atmos has answered those as far as I'm aware.
Okay. Have UPC or the staff ever recommended that any of these provisions about data being exchanged be expanded?
Specifically with regard to this?
With respect to the system integrity rider?
That's not how kind of the review process and discussions with Atmos happened past 2023.
Okay. Well, let me put it this way. We've had discussions here today about a need for additional communication and additional documentation, correct?
Today and before, yes.
So we've done it before, but no one's ever said, hey, let's change this document to memorialize that we're going to do that together, Atmos Energy and the staff.
Together, no, we asked for a proposal.
Okay.
And let me be clear, I say we. I was supporting the staff. It was ultimately the staff who was asking for this. They were asking for my advice. So while I was involved in a lot of it, I wasn't involved in every communication. I can't speak to them. But when staff asked me for advice in reacting to their discussions with Atmos, I provided that. And that's what my knowledge is based on.
Okay. So I take from your response, you're saying that there's some discussions that occur between the staff and Atmos Energy that you were not privy to, right?
I know that, yes.
You know that, okay. And so while you filed your testimony, it's based only on what you know, and there may be a body of information outside of that that the staff knows.
And as soon as I answered that question, I asked myself, what is the definition of privy? Obviously, what happened in those conversations was shared with me. I myself was not in the meeting.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it was my fault, sorry.
I just, no. I should be clear. You did not participate individually in some discussions that the staff had with Atmos Energy, correct?
That's right.
Okay. I want to bounce some ideas off of you. Has UPC ever consulted the MPSC's Pipeline Safety Office about Atmos Energy's system integrity work or processes?
Ask that again?
Sure. I'll back up. I'll ask that same question again. Has UPC ever consulted with the MPSC's Pipeline Safety Office about Atmos integrity, system integrity work, or processes?
No.
Okay. Do you think it would be a good idea for UPC to consult with the MPSC's Pipeline Safety Office to gain an understanding of what system integrity work is necessary and what is the existing condition of the system?
I don't know if it would be a good idea for UPC. I was asked to do something in this case, and my client's been asked me to do things before. I don't doubt it would be good to meet with them by the staff or somebody to talk through anything.
All right. But it would be a source of additional information, right?
It could be.
Okay. Has UPC ever considered doing site visits on system integrity work being done by Atmos Energy?
Considered, yes.
Okay. Have you ever requested that to happen?
Again, the tenor
Yes, sir.
and the back and forth of discussions from 2003 showed that would not have been a worthwhile exercise.
Okay. And why do you think it would not be useful?
So we asked, you want me, I'll go through. So when
Well, you said 2003, and that's what's
2023, I'm sorry.
okay.
That's I'm bad with numbers sometimes. Reciting them at least. 2023. We were asked to start consulting for the MPUS in 2022. We began reviewing Atmos when they made that filing in 2022. Larkin did too. We saw their report earlier. And then from 2023 on, our concern, as Larkin had identified in 22, was the pace of the capital spending. And that was told to us to be not something that was non-negotiable. And so working through the words that would describe a budget that was non-negotiable didn't seem like it would be worth the time.
Okay. But you've heard Mr. Keim say that he was open to it. Do you think that would be a helpful exercise sitting here today?
I heard Mr. Keim say that he would be open to discussing the project. I also heard him say, as we have heard since 23, every single one of the projects is necessary.
And that's right. Now, do you know why he's saying they're necessary?
Because he believes they are.
Well, do you think it's just something he pulled out of the atmosphere?
No, but we'd like to explore that. And why are they necessary? What's the metric that this is producing?
So are you aware that there's a distribution integrity management plan?
Absolutely.
Okay. And do you understand that that's a significant process to generate?
I don't question the process that Atmos does to identify projects that can be done.
Okay. Do you understand that they have a risk analysis model, the distribution risk analysis model?
And I understand that, and I understand their prioritization list. that I have been unable to tie to the specific project supporting the budget.
Okay, so that's a category of information that you would like to have, and we will note that, and we can work to get that to you.
Been asking for it for a long time.
Okay. Are you aware of the inputs that go into the distribution risk analysis model?
I'm sure there was too many to, I mean, there's several, I'm sure.
But you, sitting here today, you don't know what they are, right? You haven't reviewed them.
Explain the question again.
Sure, I'm going to call it the DRAM, the DRAM, the Distribution Risk Analysis Model. So I don't have to say 4 words every time I ask you a question.
Okay.
And I'm going to call that the DRAM.
Okay.
All right, we're communicating?
Okay.
Now, have you ever reviewed the inputs that go into the DRAM?
I have not reviewed the inputs of the DRAM. I have not been given, if they're dashboards as were described, staff has not been given dashboard outputs of the DRAM, no.
Okay. And then I want to get to the last piece of this process. And in section 2, and I'm just going to read it. It's not on the screen right now. It says, the staff shall submit a report to the commission no later than September 1st with its recommendation related to the proposed SIR projects and the proposed level of capital spending. Did I read that right?
I was trying to find it.
Sure. I think it's in like maybe the last paragraph of
Section 2?
Of section 6E.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I got you.
Keeps. Where it is.
I think
It may be in. I apologize. I copied it out, but I didn't copy the page reference.
You may, yes.
trying to find it.
It is on in section 2 and under annual filings, Connor. After that little subsection 4, there it is.
You're fine. Thank you. You may continue.
Okay. So I'm going to repeat my question. And then the last part of this process is that the staff shall submit a report to the commission no later than September 1st with its recommendation related to the proposed SIR projects and the proposed level of capital spending.
I see that.
Okay? And UPC and the staff have done that, correct?
UPC will typically issue a report to the staff.
Uh-huh.
And staff takes it from there. I haven't confirmed that exactly was done. But
Okay, so you're telling me, you can't tell me that it was actually submitted to the commission. You're saying that UPC gave it to the staff.
right, I did. Well, we gave our report. I would have no doubt that staff complied, but I just don't have that in front of me.
Okay. Yesterday, I had some questions to Mr. Sissong about the PEP for Mississippi Power and the FRP. And both of those, do you agree with me that both of those riders provide for known and measurable adjustments that are for after the historical period reported?
Yes.
Okay. And the language of those two riders is very similar, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that language is also similar to language found in the system integrity rider, correct?
Generally, I mean, I'd have to look at specifics. I've looked at a lot of riders, but generally, yes, they both provide forward-looking features to recover rate base.
Okay, so can you confirm for me that Mississippi Power, Energy Mississippi, and Atmos Energy all have forward-looking features to recover costs?
With the caveat that they speak for themselves, yes, that's how I understand it.
Okay, and the documentation section that we were going over, that's very similar in all of those riders, correct?
No.
Okay,
It's just different.
all right,
It's different utilities, right?
Okay.
It's gas and electric.
all right. We talked about the functional projects section in the Atmos Energy rider, right? Remember we talked
Oh,
about
yes,
that?
yes, I'm sorry.
All
Yes,
right, the functional projects,
Yes,
section 6D.
yes.
Okay. In the FRP, they talk about distribution recurring programs,
Yes.
okay? And in your mind, while those are obviously different operations, electric versus gas, they're very similar because you're dealing with that last portion of service to the customer's house.
Yes.
Okay. And so the provisions are about documentation are the same?
The processes are different.
Okay.
The general idea of getting the documentation, if you're going to have forward-looking rate base, to have documentation to support that, the general idea, yes, of course. Right?
Okay.
If you have that projection, both require documentation. In the electric world, is a capital plan filed, reviewed by a team, not me, and that process goes through that. They're talking about lines, right, and wires and power plants.
Right.
And gas, looking for the same support, the SIR defines what that support, and we went through some of that.
Okay. And so, well, I know you didn't work for Energy Mississippi. Let's just assume Energy Mississippi has the same sort of budgeting process that Energy Louisiana does.
Okay.
Okay? The functional projects, they're going to be budgeted, Atmos Energy's functional projects are going to be budgeted in a similar manner that Energy Mississippi's distribution recurring programs will be, as a blanket is, I think, the term you use.
I think I got to answer that precisely.
Go ahead.
I would agree that those type of projects would be utilized by those companies the same way. That is to take a whole bunch of smaller projects and utilize a blanket project to categorize those. The budgeting to develop the total cost of that bucket, I cannot opine on whether they're the same. I've only been asked to look at that for Atmos.
Okay. Let's go to question 113 in your testimony.
And I'm sorry, I actually just asked for a copy of it before we restarted, and I don't have one.
Okay.
I have mine. Okay.
No, sure. Yes, that's fine, yeah. You're fine.
It's question 113.
Everybody good? Mr. Perrin, you may continue.
Okay. You ready, Mr. Berg?
Yep.
Okay. So in question 13, in the answer, you're writing about your cap and growth rate, and it says the following: does your recommendation here impact Atmos's ability to provide safe and reliable service? And the answer is no, it should not. Is that right? Did I read that correctly?
Yes, sir. And more goes on, but that's the
It
first
does.
sentence.
I'm going to get to that.
Yep.
Okay. But you are trying to force a change in Atmos Energy's behavior, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's on line 8. You state that your cap and growth rate forces prioritization rather than automatic expansion, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
Now,
are we done with that question?
yeah, you can put it on the side, but I might.
I just, to fully read the full question, and it just goes to the point I've made, it does specify that if the company believes a specific safety critical project surely cannot be completed within the cap, it should file a separate time-limited petition demonstrating the need and requesting targeted recovery. The commission can evaluate that showing on its merits.
Okay. So what you're mentioning there is that you want to have a separate proceeding for amounts above 61 million. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay.
It could have been this proceeding.
Okay.
It is the commission, the company, presenting a targeted program that has metrics that can be monitored by the commission and spending targets that match those metrics. That's the proposal.
Okay. Well, that's the proposal. And I understand, let's go back to my focus, and I appreciate what you're saying. But you say that the cap and growth rate is going to force prioritization rather than automatic expansion, right?
Yeah, it would force at least the requirement to make the specific ask for the dollars.
Well, wait, it says force prioritization.
By
Are you conceding today that Atmos Energy does prioritize?
I conceded in my direct testimony
Okay.
that there is a prioritization process of some kind. Yes.
Okay. So there's no system integrity work going on that's not prioritized, right?
I can't tell how it is and how the projects that got into the ultimate dollar budget got there, but I'm told there's a lot of prioritization, and I would inherently, a project has to be picked to be done. And that would seem to be the priority that Atmos has identified.
Okay. Do you recall Mr. Knight's discussion of the DRAM and the 2,000 foot by 2,000 foot grids that are used to grade risk or assess risk?
Yes, I understood, yes.
Okay. And you understand that assessment is done for prioritization purposes, right?
No doubt.
Okay. And then Mr. Keim, he talked about that there's even real-time prioritization, correct?
He's talked about many factors that would go into this attempt to identify the projects and prioritize.
Okay. But do you recall him describing, he had a list of projects that were described, that are high risk?
I don't recall that portion.
Okay. Do you recall him saying that I have a list of high-risk projects, but before I send someone out to work on that project, I consult a dashboard and real-time information to determine whether some other condition has arisen that would make that other condition a higher priority than the project that's on his list?
And I just don't recall him saying that. I have no doubt he did, if that's what he said.
All right. And then, so PEMSA regulations require prioritization?
Yes.
Okay. And the MPSC Office of Pipeline Safety Audits, the MPSC Office of Pipeline Safety audits Atmos Energy's risk rankings and prioritization too, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Atmos Energy does prioritization, and so forcing it by the cap is unnecessary, right?
Well, if I had $1 billion project, I'd still be doing prioritization. If I had $1 billion, I would have to prioritize how to fit within the $1 billion. If I had 100 million, I'd have to prioritize to fit into the 100 million. Not doubting there's some priority to determine the projects that should fit within the budget. Our concern was that the budgets have just been growing out of control.
Okay. Now, so that's your other piece, automatic expansion. Okay. Under the SIR, we looked at section 6. Atmos Energy has to provide required documentation. The staff gets to review every project and every proposed dollar of system integrity spending. The staff gets to request additional information. Mr. Keim, under oath, said that he would meet with the staff and provide information on the proposed projects and explain how the projects were prioritized, developed, and planned. And then the staff gets to make a recommendation to the commission about what to do. That does not sound like automatic expansion to me. Does it to you?
It did to Mr. Larkin. He even said in his 2000, it does to me, yes, and it did to Mr. Larkin. I mean, what happens, and I explained this in my testimony, there was a budget approved in 15 for 10 years. The process called for Atmos to come in every year and tell us what's in that budget. Tell the commission what's in that budget. And they were looking at the total 10-year budget. And every year Atmos came in and they gradually put more. And now you got a yearly amount in an approved program that's 10 million more than last year, 20 million more than last year, what the number is. And as Mr. Larkin said in 22, and where I found myself in 23, is a budget with work practically started and an approval to replace pipe, which I have never, and I say it in my testimony, disagreed that the replacement of old pipe with new pipe that's needed is prudent. And so here you are with projects in front of you on the yearly basis, and this, I agree with you, the SIP as written. That commission, the staff, when it was me, and the staff when it was Mr. Larkin, as written in his report, said, look, we have concerns about the continuing growth, but we're approving this one. And in 23, we said that. We said, we have concerns about the continuing growth. Please stick to your plan for 24 and 25, and then let's have a rate case and discuss it. And you can put out your case, you can put out your specific ask. And Atmos exceeded the budget set out in that agreement, and I get the case and why it says why, but they did. And here we are in the rate case that we set up in 23, based on the concerns of exactly what you're describing. That annual budget just wasn't the way to do it because they keep creeping up. And we ended up in a 5-year forecast that now when you started at $40 million was going to be upwards of $200 million based on annual increases. That was the concern articulated in my testimony. Now, I'm not saying that once you spent $160 million replacing bad pipe in the ground, that's prudent. The question is, can we slow down the pace?
So your concern is that the budget went up, correct?
That the budget has continued to go up and there's no end in sight, and it's costing customers in this state $11 a year in projections. That's the whole question I set up. Is it needed, balancing affordability? And that's a question of pace, as I think Mr. Knight said too.
Okay, well, to do that analysis, you have to take into account safety also, right?
Absolutely.
Don't customers want safe and reliable gas service?
And affordable.
And affordable. But those two have to be balanced, right?
That's the entire point of my testimony.
Okay, but when you talk about the rates going up, that's only saying affordability, right?
No, and I completely, you and Mr. Sisson had the discussion about that the public interest can be served by increasing rates. I fully agree. The public interest is very difficult, but it has to take into a balance. Yes, you can increase rates, and that doesn't help affordability. If you increase rates $1, that doesn't help with affordability, but then the question is, what are you getting for it? Here we're $11, and we're told, well, safety. And the metrics are too complicated to understand. And so what metrics do we look at? Safety? What do we look at? That's what we've been asking for the detailed budget with targets and metrics, accountability and pace.
Okay, so it sounds like you're asking for other procedures. could those be incorporated in a system integrity rider?
The ask could have been made in this filing. I mean, the ask can be made at any time Atmos wants. That's what's set out. They ask for a specific, you could call it a different rider, a leak replacement rider, a leak detection rider, and ask the commission that we need this money to do these things, and this is what you're going to get. And so that could, the commissioners could look at it and say, well, that's going to increase rates, but that's still in the public interest because we're getting this.
Okay. Are you saying under the system integrity rider, there was no public interest determination on the rate increases that went through the system integrity rider?
I'm actually saying the exact opposite, because when they agreed to it, they had a 10-year budget, and in that order, they say one of the considerations they gave was to the bill effect based on that trajectory. And I think the first month was 83 cents, the first year. And so they looked at it and they said, the next 10 years, those seem reasonable. We're well past those. So here we are 10 years, asking should it continue, and not to slow down, to go way beyond what the commission approved in 2015.
Okay. But if safety requires that, shouldn't the rates go up?
If safety absolutely requires it, yes.
And we're on the same page with that. Safety is important in determining what rates are.
Safety is important.
Okay. Yurla, yes. Go ahead. Just to inform everybody, there's a pending energy outage that may happen. Okay, got you. So I'm being informed that if it should have happened, it already would have. But if the lights do flicker, we have a backup generator supposed to come on board. So no panic.
Paragraph 11. No, that's the table. We need the exhibit CAKR1. If you're in the
You may, yes.
This is the order from 2015.
Yeah. So the record's clear. What has been pulled up on the screen is Exhibit CAK-R1 to the Keim rebuttal testimony. And it is a joint stipulation that was filed on August 18th, 2015 with the Mississippi Public Service Commission. and it's regarding in the matter of a comprehensive review of Atmos Energy Corporation's capital budget for fiscal year 2015 through fiscal year 2024, and its request for a system integrity rider. And we have pulled up on the screen paragraph 11. Mr. Berg, you've expressed some concerns with changes in the budget. I want you to focus on the last two sentences of paragraph 11. And I'm going to read from this. Thus, Atmos Energy and the MPUS agree and stipulate that the level of system integrity spending proposed by Atmos Energy for the 10-year period ending in 2024 appears reasonable. Did I read that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you don't dispute that it was reasonable at the time?
That the figures provided to them and that are even mentioned there appeared reasonable to them at the time is what it says.
Okay. And then the next sentence, there is an exception. It says, however, the parties agree that circumstances may change and that Atmos Energy will provide staff with a 5-year projection that will be updated and reviewed annually to ensure its continued reasonableness. Does that sentence describe what happens in the system integrity filings?
What, the provision that Atmos, 5 years of projections?
And it'll be updated annually.
Yeah, it's usually updated in March and had been historically. In 2024, Atmos took a little more time and did it in July of 24, and that's when the really increased numbers came through in the 5-year budget, raising our concerns. But if I could I have a copy of the order? Thank you. I won't thumb through, I promise. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berg. I have no more questions.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Krieger, you're recognized.
Mr. Berg, Mr. Berg, you spoke about concerns about affordability for customers and concessions that Atmos has made in the past to mitigate rate effects for customers. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, sure. And it goes to kind of what I was discussing in my 3 years of reviewing. We were concerned as right when we came in about the trajectory of the SIR spending as compared to what had been initially proposed. And so that was our area of most importance, and we took the most time examining it. And every time we came in one of the SIRs we reviewed asking Atmos if they would consider changing it, that was a non-starter. And so there were, to Atmos's credit, there were stipulations that they made in other areas. For example, what they did a lot of times was lower their rate of return. But the problem with that is the capital gets spent, the return gets lowered for a year, and here we are in a rate case, and we're at a full rate of return question that Mr. DeSantis. So it's kind of a temporary fix to lessen the bill impact as it's coming in. And Atmos agreed to that, no doubt. But the capital spending sits there, becomes plant and service, and it's what the utility earns on. And so once it's spent, and prudently spent, as I discussed, it's just a matter of pace, right? That then is in rates until it depreciates, a long time for pipe. So those were concessions made, but again, as I discussed, our primary focus was all about, can we slow the pace of capital spending?
And on that note about pace of spending, Mr. Perrion asked about a utility's ability to do work and the pace of spending. Can you please elaborate on the concerns you have about Atmos's pace of spending?
Right, and again, it was balancing affordability. And so we came from an affordability angle, and, you know, we brought up negotiations, and I don't know if it's the proper venue, but where we were coming from is, look, this is the $4 bill, right? This is what a customer can afford. Can we get there? And we couldn't. It was a non-starter. And so that's, again, why we said, look, we're thinking we need to impose some kind of cap, and that's my recommendation. Again, just to limit the amount of spending with a full right to make the ask that, commission, we need to go do this initiative, and here's what we're going to get out of it.
Have there been any specific requests in this docket to implement a programmatic approach to a problem?
No,
An example is like a leak repair program that you spoke about with Mr. Perrion, or a cast iron program?
We discussed this, but there was not a request. The request in this docket was to continue the status quo, to continue the review of the SIR tariff that we just reviewed, with the same documentation, the same review process, and the same spreadsheet we went through.
Mr. Perrion asked you about budgeting and spending specifically. Are you suggesting that the commission order a cap on Atmos' spending or a cap on recovery?
I am, and I want to clarify that sitting here today, I recommend that a cap be placed on the recovery through the formula rate plan I have proposed, which again is a formula rate plan with a historic test year.
Mr. Perrion discussed with you a cap on spending. Atmos has been critical of the fact that you used a 2% inflation rate to determine your cap. Did you do that?
I did not, and I'd like to address that because it was a large part of testimony against me. I took the 2016 number, and my proposal is inflated based on actual reported inflation for construction material. I looked at construction, I looked at labor. Construction was a more conservative, a higher inflation rate, and just by doing the math, you can see that the inflation rate is 4.5 on average. It's actual inflation, but the average comes out to 4.5, not 2.
Regarding your proposed cap, Mr. Berg, can you respond to the suggestion that your cap is below the level that would allow for leak repair?
Yes, and I think that's critical because it was a criticism of my proposal in rebuttal, and for the reasons I've stated, that there has been no clear indication of what exactly is needed and necessary for leak repair and how long that will last. I understand the advanced leak detection equipment has found more leaks, but is there a plan that those will go down at some point in the future, or the commission can monitor if they're going down and determine whether that level of spending may be approved here can go down in the future? That request has not been made.
We've talked some this morning about budget for leaks. Can you tell the commission about other times during your review of Atmos's SIR where Atmos has proposed to you a budget for leaks?
Yeah, like in those discovery responses, and I've gone back in time. We started reviewing in 22 and then 23, but those what was called as a standard discovery request, which is that first set that comes from staff. In response to that, Atmos does provide categories, and in prior years, leak repairs was separately identified. And so we, back in 23, when we got that, leak repairs were identified as $25 million.
Mr. Perrion asked you about Atmos's capital plan and also about documentation provided to staff by Atmos. Were you able to make any recommendations to the commission based on the documents that Atmos provided you to support its capital plan?
No, I couldn't get to the prioritization process that was happening, and we went through all of the documents. And there's no doubt that the documentation provided has street names, it has the cost of a project, it has towns. But and then the top level sheet to which that supports is a number, 26 million, 30 million. And all these projects make that up somehow. The question is, well, what was the last one that got on the list? What was the last one that could come out? If you're trying to say, hey, I want to look at affordability a little, there's no way to tie that together. based on the documentation we were provided.
Mr. Berg, you discussed the difference between the formulaic ROE Atmos has proposed be used here and the testimony provided by Mr. Mayu and Mr. DeCendis. Why do you think the commission should not use the standard Mississippi formula?
Right, and I discussed this in my testimony. You know, Mr., I think you have over 250.
Well, if there's an objection, other than objection, let the
Well, the
question
objection was
continue.
that I didn't ask any questions about ROE, and this redirect should be limited to the scope of my cross. But that's my objection.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Berg has clearly discussed ROE, and I would,
Your objection is noted, but is overridden. Mr. Kruger may continue.
Mr. Berg, please answer the question.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. My recommendation is Mr. DeCendis and Mr. Mayu have provided a lot of analysis on what the proper ROE is for Atmos. Atmos has continued to say in filings and to us that they are different, right? They have a 60% equity ratio. With all of the information that the commission has, I think the appropriate thing is to base an ROE based on that information and not a formula that other companies use.
In your introduction today, you discussed some questions on incentive compensation, and I would just like to give you an opportunity to clarify your position on that.
That is clearly outside of the scope. There's no
Order,
discussion.
order. It's Ms. Kruger's time. If you have an objection, please state it, and then we'll add it to the record.
Chairman, the objection is, again, I didn't ask any questions about incentive compensation. Mr. Berg certainly talked about it on direct. The scope of this redirect is based on my cross, and I didn't ask any questions.
Your objection is noted but overruled. I think this is within the realm of information that we're trying to find out. So you may continue, Ms. Kruger.
Thank you.
Commission, I can keep that one quick too. There's a general policy that I think is well articulated throughout regulatory policy that when you look at incentive compensation, you got to look at what is the basis for it, right? If the incentive paid to utility employees is for the benefit of the shareholders, you're saying if you do this for shareholders, we'll incentivize you, that likely shouldn't be recovered from ratepayers. For example, if you improve our stock score, you get incentivized. Ratepayers really don't have an interest in that. But on the other hand, if the incentive were for if you don't have explosions or if you have reliability, then that might be something ratepayers, you want to incentivize that behavior. Ratepayers, that should maybe go in rates. My testimony, and I'll just leave it at that if you read it, lays out that policy and says the facts here, especially based on the events of 24, indicate the real incentive behind the incentive compensation in this case.
No further questions for this witness. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kruger. Mr. Berg, you're excused. Thank you. With that, we're going to take a break for lunch. Almost 12:30, so we'll take an hour. So we'll be back at 1:33-ish.